In this video, we're going to walk through how to set up calendar hours in Cairo HD. Calendar hours control when your patients can be scheduled and how many patients can be seen at the same time. If your calendar doesn't look right or patients can't book when they should be able to, this is usually the place to fix it. Let's walk through it step by step. First, confirm that the provider you're setting up has a calendar enabled. Navigate to your live location, settings, users, and you want to make sure they're listed under calendar users. If they're listed under here, you're good to go, because that means they have a calendar enabled. If they are not listed here, you will need to create a calendar user. We have separate resources about how to create a user, so please reference those. A calendar cannot be enabled on a system-level user. Now I am on my Calendar tab. If you are in Tab View, each provider's schedule is on a different tab. And to configure that provider's calendar, you want to click on the gear icon at the right-hand side. And if you are on Provider View, you can see multiple calendars side by side. Each calendar has a gear icon associated for that calendar. When I click on the gear icon, it defaults to exception hours. We do not want exception hours right now. Click on Provider Schedule. This is how you will configure your provider's calendar and hours. The start date is when these hours will go into effect. You can only pick today or a future date. You cannot go in the past and edit past dates. If you're setting up a brand new provider, today's date is fine. If you know their schedule is changing next month, for example, you can set the start date to when that calendar change will take place. Configure that calendar's hours and settings, and then Cairo HD will automatically switch over to those settings when that time comes. That way, you don't have to remember what those changes are going to be. They're already in the system. Columns control how many patients can be scheduled at the same time. For example, on this calendar, 2 patients can be seen at the 9 o'clock hour. On this calendar, there can be 4 patients. And on this calendar, there can only be 1 patient at a time. That is what it's referring to when it says columns. So you would set the appropriate number of columns for how many patients the provider can see at that time. This doesn't change how long appointments are. It only controls how many can happen at the same time. If you select a color, that color will appear on the calendar as a visual reference for your staff to schedule certain appointments accordingly. For example, say I can only see 2 people during my 9 o'clock hour, and that is my reporting hour. I could set that time to appear in yellow on the calendar so that my staff know to schedule accordingly. You can see here on my calendar that color will appear in yellow. That's the color I selected so my staff knows to only schedule maybe my report of findings or certain appointments in certain colors on your calendar. It does not prevent any booking outside of that. It's just a visual indicator on the calendar. Now we're going to talk about time blocks versus hour intervals. This is a part of setup that can trip people up. So let's break it down. There are 2 settings that look similar, but do completely different things. The first is time blocks. This controls the size of the clickable boxes on the setup screen only. It's just making it easier or more precise for you to click and set your hours. It does not change what your calendar looks like. For example, if your provider opens up at 7:20 instead of 7:30, you'd switch to the 10-minute block. That way, when configuring your calendar, I can select that exact time since the 10-minute block allows me to select on a 10-minute increment. If I need to configure my hours based on 30-minute time blocks, You can see the blocks change, so I can set them based on 30-minute intervals. The second setting is hour intervals. This is what changes the time labels you see going down the left side of your calendar. So if I have 10-minute intervals selected, the left side of my calendar will go down in 10-minute increments. If I have 5 minutes selected, that will change the left side of my calendar to go down every 5 minutes. One important thing to note is your hour intervals should match your shortest appointment duration. So if I'm looking at my appointment types at the system level, I want to see what my shortest length is. For example, if your appointments are 15 minutes long, set your hour intervals to 15 minutes as well, not 10. If they don't match, appointments won't line up correctly on your calendar. You can see here that my appointment is set to 15 minutes in length, but I have my calendar hour intervals going down by 10. So there's a gap, and your calendar will not line up. Keep in mind that all providers' schedules need to have the same hour intervals. So if your chiropractor sees patients every 10 minutes and your massage therapist is every 60, you would still set everyone's hour intervals to the same number of 10. The massage therapist appointments will simply span multiple rows on the calendar, which is completely normal. Setting your provider hours up correctly is really crucial in Chiro HD. You'll also need to make sure your appointment duration matches your calendars so that everything will match as intended on the calendar.